to see you both. Welcome to Popternative.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Congratulations. Really love this. I love this kind of journey of a film where you make a film, it does the festival run, then more people are going to be able to see it. Vivian, congratulations. Directorial debut. And you wore many hats on this film because you're also in this film as well. Were there moments where it felt more kind of natural to do all three things, or did it feel kind of challenging at times? What was that like for you specifically, doing this kind of trifecta, so to speak? You wrote this, you directed it, you're in this as well.
Yes, I'm very greedy. I think the first day on set, I do remember a little bit like the very first day, kind of like waking up that morning and like driving to set and being like, all right, well, we're gonna kind of see how this is actually gonna go. And then by the end of the first day, I was like, it's great. We'll be fine. It'll be great. It's like going great. Like everything just kind of locked in. But also like I'd done a lot of prep with my DP, like my first AD. So yeah, I think like I think maybe I over prepped because I was like maybe more nervous because it was my first feature, but by the end of the first day I was like, this is going great. Like our crew was amazing. Everyone's like totally in it. Everyone's on the same page. Like this is going to be awesome. So I just got very happy with my crew.
It's funny that you say you're greedy, but at the end of it, because I'm a filmmaker as well, indie filmmaking is more kind of like, okay, how are we gonna, what's the easiest way to do these things too, right? There's a lot of things. So I thought that's really funny. Anthony, that script to screen journey really interests me because I love kind of like talking to my guests about this. Like they read a script and then so much can kind of happen, but like while you go to camera. What was that like with Scrap specifically? What was it like reading this and then seeing it come to life on screens for you, so to speak?
Well, we first did a short film, which is sort of more or less the first couple scenes of the feature-ish.
Like a proof of concept kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so we did that a couple of years before we did the feature, not knowing, I didn't know there would be a feature. And from that experience and then the feature, when I read the script, it just felt very authentic and alive. And then, yeah, reading the script sometimes, if you get on the set, you might encounter people who aren't really in the same universe with it, and that can be a little jarring. Thankfully, that was not the case here, where we were always working from the same kind of vibrations.
Depends on the project too, right? It could be different, like your involvement also. This seemed to be a film that everyone really put everything into as well, which is really cool, and everyone got to talk to each other. It depends on the project too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And in this case, I mean, you know, we were in the middle of COVID when we did the feature, so there were those extra pressures and extra like hurdles. And then when Lana was cast as Stacy, she reached out to me personally and she just we went out to lunch, and that was such a nice, lovely gesture on her part that she extended herself to me in that way, saying, yeah, we're playing husband and wife, so let's get to know each other. Because there wasn't going to be really any kind of rehearsal time. That was just another example of the kind of the spirit that she and everyone brought to this project, of just trying to show up with our best selves and our most open heart and caring about what we did.
Yeah, well, the movie has a lot of heart. That's kind of like my next question, Vivian, because it's like the thing, obviously, that a lot of things when I watch this come to mind, and I'm thinking about things. Maybe I have my creative brain on, but like I love the sibling dynamic, right? Because that's the most important thing. But when I'm reading this, I'm saying when I'm watching this, so to speak, I'm saying that this is one example of a very complex relationship between a brother and sister. And there's so many of these different kind of like that, like what we saw in this film can be completely different than someone else's experience with their siblings as well. So with that said, Vivian, with the writing component of this, you obviously have kind of, whether you're taking it from past experiences or personal things or focusing on what was on the short script, like the short film and this, do you think about the fact that that is a complex topic as well? And so many people have different kind of experiences with their siblings? Because I did find that interesting when I was watching this, thinking about that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I really admire, you know, You Can Count on Me, the Kenneth Lonergan film, and The Savages. Like Philip Seymour Hoffman is like one of my favorite actors of all time. And that like vulnerability that those the writing has, and those actors bring to that kind of writing, and the tenderness, like the willingness to kind of be sort of open in that way. I really wanted to capture that same feeling with the script while also making it me, while making it, you know, my sort of sense of humor, my experience of LA a little bit, bring that, you know, authenticity to it. I kept joking with people that I was like, this is like the anti La La Land. It's sort of like, it's like, you know, Beth thinks she's in La La Land, but she's not. you know, she's in the real Los Angeles. And so I wanted to kind of portray that as well.
Anthony, as kind of an actor and storyteller on something like this, I know the answer to this is you try not to, because I feel like the preparation as an actor, you want to be in the zone, you're doing it, then you rap, maybe you think about it after. But I'm thinking about, like, a lot of people are going to see these characters in Scrap, and they're going to kind of be, they might relate to a lot of these characters. Say, this reminds me of my family and stuff like that. Are you ever conscious of the audience member watching or thinking about the film while you're making it, or does that kind of happen after you wrap, so to speak? Because I know you try not to, but sometimes maybe, I don't know, like maybe depending on the scene or depending on lunch at like watching Video Village, talking to the writers or directors, like, does that ever happen with you?
I guess I really try to think of like what's the story we're trying to tell, and I hope that we're going into the most interesting and sort of gnarly corners of it. Yeah, I'm not trying to be conscious of how things are quote unquote coming across. More like, are we telling the story we want to tell? Or are we getting this moment, the most thorny, complex aspects of it, is that being brought to life? You know,
Yeah.
I want the darker corners to come through, and I want light to be shining in areas where you don't always get to see things. So
wow,
I think in those terms more than like, oh, is the audience going to like this or not like this? If
that's a fantastic answer. I sometimes, because I just like, I find I get a lot of like, no, I don't. I just focus on the character that I think will audience after. But you just, and sometimes when I get those answers, I'm like, maybe I should retire that question. You know what I mean? But
yeah. I mean, I think you have to think about what is the scene about? Not just from my character, but what is the scene about in the story? You have to be responsible. You have to have some responsibility for the whole.
Yeah.
You're a part of it.
Absolutely. It's interesting, Vivian, because you can answer this from the creative perspective and the acting perspective, because usually I'll ask like an actor about their character, but you wrote and directed this as well. Self-reflection, soul searching. This is in this film from the beginning of the film to the end of the film, right? This kind of, a lot of these characters kind of reuniting, reconnecting, figuring things out, not maybe knowing what their next move is. So I'm just wondering, from kind of a storyteller perspective, for you, was it more fun creating and playing these lost characters trying to find themselves, or was it more fun? Because I feel like from the audience member, like, they don't know they're lost, these characters, right? Which is really interesting. So do you think about that? And is it challenging? Is it fun? What's that like for you with this one specifically?
And I felt like there was like, it was real. I mean, it was all really fun for me. I mean, the only thing that was sort of, I guess, not like fun necessarily is there were certain things where as a writer, I wrote it, like when I was writing it, I almost felt to like, I almost wrote it as if I wasn't playing Beth. Do you know what I mean? Like I was like, I'll be good in this. Like that's not at all what I was thinking. But then there were weird moments where like when we were going to shoot, I remember a couple days before we were shooting the scene where like my ex like hits me. I was like, oh, like I had to do that scene. Like I was a little like, oh,
yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that. You know, like it's sort of like a weird thing. But yeah, I think in terms of the creative aspect of it, I mean, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but yeah, it was just
absolutely. This is just a really simple question I just thought of. Was there a world where you weren't going to be in this film? Like that you were just going to write and direct it? Like, I'm just wondering, I just thought about that just as you're asking, because like you were bringing up sort of, I'm just curious actually.
Yeah, you know what? That's interesting because I don't think there was a world where I wasn't going to act in it, but I did think there was a world where I was maybe not going to direct it. And actually, I didn't direct, we did the short proof of concept and I didn't direct it. I brought in a director to do it. And part of actually that process and going on the long festival run with the short in 2019 and seeing the audience response to it, like that's what really kind of made me think like, okay, I think I really want to step into that directing role and I kind of want to take this in like a new direction. So, yeah, I think maybe I think there was a version, but also at that point I'd been with the story for so long.
It's so close. Absolutely.
I was like, I can't hand it over to anyone.
No, I knew that might have been just like that. I thought that was gonna be a shorter answer. When like, yeah, I was always gonna play this character. I just had to ask just in case. But like, yeah, no, absolutely. Anthony, it's interesting because it's all storytelling at the end of the day. Whether it's musical theater, whether it's a comedy, whether it's something like this. I mean, I'm just wondering. You are actually, I've interviewed a lot of your like cast from Rent before, which is amazing. It's like I'm kind of getting like I've interviewed Adam, Jesse, and Daphne as well. There's also that slice of life component too with Rent in a lot of ways. how separate are past projects compared to something like Scrap? Like, do you bring mindset preparations from other projects you've done to something like this, or are they completely separate once you wrap them specifically? I'm curious about that.
I guess it's not directly, I can't like point to like that preparation per se, but
Mindset,
having
maybe.
experiences under my belt of things like Rent and other projects that I felt really connected to personally, knowing that that personal connection can be really a very strong sort of touchstone.
Yep.
And trusting that, and that can mean it can really come through in the end result. I think that's helpful to know, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool because it's like you also look at other projects, they're all like different worlds, but you played so many different characters too, which is so crazy to me. Like, I have to say, like, you know, growing up, I'm a 90s kid, right? You might know where this is going, like Road Trip, you know what I mean? Like, that character is so different than this character.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the joys to me of acting, is to get to wear all these different sorts of different skins and different, you know, different ways of being, inhabiting, transforming in different ways. I mean, I do think there's a lot of Ben and me, or me and Ben, you know, we're a little closer to each other maybe than certainly Jacob in Road Trip. Myself, but you know, and Mark and I are, you know, we were like this, very close.
Oh man. Yeah, no, absolutely. And then kind of last question before we wrap up, Vivian. I mean, I think it's amazing that, you know, this does a really incredible festival run. Congrats to you and the whole cast and crew. And then people are going to be able to see it on digital. When they get to watch Scrap, what are you hoping they get out of it, takeaway wise specifically? And I feel like you've had maybe this time to think about this because it has done this festival run. But is there anything specific, like takeaway wise, you hope they get out of it when they watch your film?
You know, it's been interesting because a benefit of doing a long festival run, I think, has been being able to like go to all these different places all over America and having these Q&As. And there are common things that people seem to latch onto. And a lot of people really do relate to, you know, Beth's like financial troubles and sort of her kind of consumerism and, you know, the stress of like keeping up appearances and like not letting anyone know that you're financially struggling. A lot of people seem to relate to that. So I'm hoping if it makes people feel like a little more, like maybe they think I'm not as bad as Beth. I don't know. Maybe that would make me happy.
And you know, I think that the IVF journey for people can be really, you know, very intense and very challenging. And, you know, so that's one little aspect that I hope it can give some space for people to, you know, process their own experiences with that. That's one of the things. And then sibling stuff, you know, sibling, family, but like spending time in a story that feels truthful and authentic in and of itself, to me, can be very meaningful.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait for people to see it. It's going to be available can you plug away, Vivian? It's starting the 13th. It'll be available on digital, I believe.
Yes. So Friday, December 13th, it'll be yeah, it's tomorrow for it'll be on like Amazon Amazon, Google, like Apple TV for people to rent or purchase.
Awesome. Anthony, Vivian, so great chatting with you both. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Birdy. It was so nice to meet you.
Awesome. Well, this has been PopTurnitive, youtube.com/PopTurnitive for previous episodes, popturnitive.com has other content as well. Until next time, it's Vivian and Anthony about their film Scrap, and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to PopTurnitive. Make sure to check out our past episodes of PopTurnitive on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.